This happened about 15 years ago, and is something that has puzzled both myself and my two friends who witnessed what we saw to this day. It was on my 10th or 11th birthday, and it was late August. I live in a normal suburban development just outside of Buffalo, New York. Before I tell the story, please, if anyone reading this has any idea of what it was we saw, please reach out, because I have no clue to this day what or whom we saw. Like I said, it was either my 10th or 11th birthday. It was late at night, and the summer was just about over. My two friends and I were out on my driveway playing around, while our parents hung out inside. Adjacent to my house is another house that has a small creek, with a guardrail bridge that essentially almost faces my house. While we were playing, all three of us stopped, as we heard and saw a woman making loud, frustrated sounds and almost stomping her feet, walking across the street from the creek or bridge. She had red curly hair and was dressed not of this time at all. She wore a robe that looked to be black, with a rope around it, and from what I can remember, her outfit seemed plaid, but again, unlike anything I had seen anyone wearing, even in the late 90s when dressing gothic was at an all-time high. This kind of freaked us out, so we ran into my garage. Not even 10 seconds later, mind you. We decided that she was just a girl, and it was nothing to be afraid of. So we mustered up some courage, grabbed a hockey stick, and came back outside. When I say back outside, we stayed in the corner of my garage and peered out to where she was stomping around across the street. She was gone, and a late fog had suddenly arrived, mainly around where we last saw her and the bridge across the street. Then all three of the pits of our stomachs dropped, and we knew without seeing her exactly where she was. When we did look, she was now fully cloaked standing on the bridge, staring down into the water. Then one of us whispered something to the other, and I swear she had to have heard it, because as we spoke, she looked up slowly and turned, looking right at us and into us. We couldn't see her anymore. It was just a cloaked, shadowy figure at this point. Needless to say, this felt like a horror movie, and we ran as fast as we could into my house, closing the garage door and telling our parents who, naturally, didn't believe us. Since that day, a lot of weird things have happened, and honestly, the three of us have never been the same. If anyone knows anything of what that might have been, please reach out. I've avoided knowing for a long time, and I just can't avoid it any longer. Any help would be appreciated. This happened over the summer a few years back, when my brother invited my cousin and me to join him and his girlfriend to join them for a week-long vacation around Texas. We didn't go to Travel Channel destination sites, mind you. It was just a trip head to Six Flags over Texas, and then off to Austin and San Antonio. Honestly, the overall trip was so much fun, but the first night would be the one that changed my perspective of hotel rooms forever. We left on a Wednesday morning at around 6 a.m. We planned to head to Dallas and sightsee for a little bit before making our way to Arlington and checking into our hotel. I'm from South Texas, so the drive is about a good 8 hours or so. Also, Texans measure the distance from city to city by how long it takes to get there than actually noting the miles between them. Anyway, everything went well day one, and we had a lot of fun in Dallas. We headed to the hotel around 5 p.m., and once we got there, we checked in and unpacked our bags. Honestly, nothing felt weird about the room, and my cousin and I were pretty comfortable. Sometimes people will tell you that you can feel a presence, and usually it's when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. After we unpacked, we hung out in our room for about an hour before heading back down to the lobby to grab dinner. We got back to the hotel a few hours later, absolutely stuffed. Our room was on the 3rd floor, so we made our way up and set a plan on what to do at the amusement park. So around 11 p.m., I decided it was time to shower before heading to bed and did so. My cousin was already passed out, but I stayed up watching Knocked Up on TV. After my shower, I jumped in bed, fairly content with the progression of the day and looking forward to the following morning. Except, something else had other plans in mind. As I lay in bed, my body was closer to the window in the room and my head on one half of the pillow. My eyes were closed and I was trying to lose myself in thought so I could fall asleep. A few minutes into that, I felt a tapping on the other half of the pillow. I thought it was my cousin at first, but then I realized my cousin was still snoring. I panicked but didn't move. I felt and heard the taps on the pillow again, and this time I was in full-on this can't be happening again mode. I mustered some courage and pulled the blanket over me so I can begin to process what was going on. As I laid there waiting, I started hearing footsteps walking at the foot of our beds. Then the ceiling fan turned on and started rotating. I was terrified at this point. I thought I started feeling the bed itself starting to shake, but after calming myself down, I realized it was me. I was trembling in fear. I slowed my breathing down and recomposed myself and continued to listen. My cousin was still snoring. The footsteps continued pacing back and forth, and then I heard the restroom light and vent come on. Then the toilet flushed once. The light and vent turned off. They turned on again a few seconds later. The toilet flushed again. It continued like this for what felt like an eternity. Every part of me wanted to jump out of bed and leave the room, but I didn't. I don't know why I stayed, but I just did, eventually falling asleep. I was woken up in the morning and I was extremely tired. I don't know how long I was up that night, but I know it was for several hours. As soon as I woke up, it was the first thing I wanted to get off my chest. I recounted the story to my cousin, my brother and his girlfriend, and they didn't know what to say. My cousin didn't hear a thing and slept through it all. My brother and his girlfriend had no problems on their end either. To this day, I hate staying in hotel rooms, but I do it anyway. Only difference is now I go in, say a prayer, and ask any visitors to vacate for the night. So far, so good, but definitely one of those things I'll always remember. It was Thanksgiving, as I rode home from my sister's house in San Fernando Valley. The streets at night in Los Angeles are normally pretty barren, but since it was a holiday weekend, I felt like I was pedaling through a ghost town. I was 22 at the time and sharing a one-bedroom apartment in Van Nuys. My roommate was out of town, so I was preparing myself for a quiet night. No crazy girlfriends nor any of my alcoholic friends would be banging on my door tonight, so as I made my way down the boulevard, a smile of relief spread across my face. When I finally reached my building, though, this was far from peaceful as the night progressed. There was an older lady standing outside my building. She was alone and dressed in a fur coat with a matching hat. She looked out of place. I don't know if it was her apparel or how she was just standing there staring off into space, but something was off. There was also a large stack of books and boxes with her, as if she was moving or something. And when I passed her on my mountain bike, goosebumps shot up my arms and back. There was a liquor store next to my apartment complex, so I figured a beer was in order. It must have took me less than a minute to make my purchase, and when I came back outside, she was gone. Weird, I mumbled to myself, so I shrugged it off and made my way to my humble abode. As soon as I entered my apartment, though, red flags shot up. It was strangely chilly in my place. It was almost winter, but this apartment never had gotten cold before. It had always remained an even 70 degrees all year round, but on this night it felt like it was in the low 40s. The cold was coming from a corner of the living room, and as I walked by it, baffled, something grabbed me. It squeezed the lower side of my back. I swung around with my fists up, but the only thing there was the cold. So, I just sat down and opened my beer. What to do, right? A few minutes had passed and the cold remained. It felt like I was having a stare down with something I couldn't see. So out of nowhere, I blurted out, "Get out of my house!" And sure enough, that's all it took. The temperature began to rise to its normal 70, and after that, I never had any other visitors from the land of the dead. Crazy girlfriends and drunk friends excluded, of course. The house was on Kenton Street, and my family had lived there since I was 2 years old. The white elephant still stands, and has gone through many changes since my father lost a house sometime in the 1980s. There are some very interesting stories that center around that house. The earliest one, my first encounter with a spirit, took place when I was 5 and my sister was 3. My mother and father were divorced. A judge declared my father unfit to raise my sister and I, so our father received custody. All three of us slept mainly downstairs in the living room on the two couches. Our bed was against the side window. That night, my sister and I just received a little spanking because we were not going to sleep. My sister cried herself to sleep, and I was awake and staring out the window. If you looked out that window, you would see a line of bushes, broken only by a very large maple tree. The bushes had been planted many years ago as the property line. As I stared out the window that night, the maple tree and the bushes seemed to fade away, and there stood a young girl with an updo and a red dress with white spots. She was gesturing with her hands, and she seemed to be trying to tell me something. I could not hear her, and finally she faded away, and the tree and the bushes reappeared. I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I told my father about what I had seen. He never laughed at me. He listened to my story, and at some point, he did some investigation into the past. He even told me what he had found out. The following was told to me by him, and the two of us were in our right minds. Though it may sound like an urban legend, it's not. My father had bought the house from a Springfield police officer, whose last name I believe was Miller. Officer Miller had purchased the house from a German couple. The German couple had no longer wanted to live in the house because of the death of their only child, a daughter. My father had stated that the girl had been out late at night with her boyfriend, that the vehicle they were in broke down on the railroad tracks and a train had made impact. She was wearing a white dress that had been covered with her blood. Even after all these years, I never checked that story in the microfilm of the Springfield News and Sun at the Warder Public Library, but for many years after that visit in 1966, I'd seen and heard many things in that house. I think the German lass had made her presence known with laughter from upstairs, whistling, humming, singing, and whispering. The first time I even realized that the old auditorium of our school was haunted was during a fall play near the beginning of November. Before I can account to you the details of these encounters, I must explain a few things. I can see auras. An aura is kind of a light that forms around anything living, once living, or in contact with something living. In the case of something living, it contains an array of colors that correspond with the emotions one is feeling. In the case of unliving things, like objects or spirits, it is a faint white glow, and in the case of bad things, it is a strong blackness that can even be seen in the dark. My eyes are now trained to see auras, only when I want to, so during the play, I looked out to the set with no distracting colors. Seated to my right was my mate, A. I shall call him as I do not want to post real names. T was to my left, and P was sitting in front and one seat over from me. I was decidedly enjoying Dracula's Widow when a scene came where a small mirror hanging on the set wall was knocked down in accordance to the play's script. I could feel a sudden tension about me. Then A said to me in a low voice, "I want you to look around the room and tell me if you see the aura of someone other than our classmates." At his implications, I looked around, focusing my eyes on the level that auras appear on. First, looking to the right of our group, I saw a slender aura of a spirit in the second top row of seats. 5 rows below that, I saw a larger one. By now, P had seen what I was doing and informed me that he had also felt a disturbance. P was an empath. I then looked to my left, and to my horror, saw the darkest aura I have never encountered sitting right next to T. Then it moved and was gone. My eyes could still see a wave in the air where it was. It was keeping me from seeing it. For some reason, this frightened me even more. The play had only a few more moments to go, and I whispered to my 3 companions of what I had seen. A protectively moved closer to me, not only because I was his mate, but also because I was the only girl in our group, so I was considered by the men more vulnerable. So we waited out the play to the end. After it was done, we hurriedly rose from our seats and walked to the exit. Turning back, I saw the black aura again. It was following us. I told my friends and we quickened our pace, hoping that the spirit would be gone as soon as we left the school. As we entered the courtyard, I turned back. It was right behind us. We ran the rest of the way to A's car, and he drove each of us home. All the way home, I felt a disturbing cold enshrouding me and an unusual prickling down my body. A few weeks later, ATM, another friend of mine who was the head of a paranormal investigations team, and I went back into the auditorium. It was dark and deserted. M had brought a digital camera and a specially designed audio voice recorder. I opened my eyes and scanned the room. The same two white auras that were in there during the play were still there. At first I could not see as to what we referred to as the other. M took pictures of where I said the spirits were and showed all of us the odd white circles on the screen. Those circles would be the heads, as that was the strongest part of the aura. I was not worried until M started doing something that no one should do. He started taunting the spirits. Then I saw it. The other was sitting in a seat right in front of us. I tried to warn M, but he demanded a reaction from the spirit that he could see. I saw the horrible dark aura rise and draw near. Then I looked at M as he fell back onto the floor hard. T helped him up, and I looked up to see the other still progressing towards us. We hurried from the auditorium. We have not been in there because the principal keeps it locked during school hours because someone told him we were in there. But M is working on getting us back in with more equipment. It makes me frown that there's such a horrible thing right in my high school. Our family, from my mother on down, has always had a sensitivity for the paranormal. Now it was my son's turn, a confirmed non-believer. He had taken a temporary job a few buildings down from the Essex Stream train. It was his duty to work alone in the basement, sorting box files and setting them up systematically in filing cabinets. It was going to be a long haul. The first day, however, he noticed a ball of white light hovering in midair. Skeptic that he was, he called his dad, the scientist. They discussed all possible things that could cause such a phenomenon. Light from a window or reflection, but nothing explained it. It seemed to have a life of its own. Next thing was to ask Mom, "Wow, you've got yourself an orb, which is the first stage in the manifestation of a spirit," I said. He was less than impressed and shrugged it off. The orb continued to show up daily for about a week at different times, on and off, when he least expected it in different parts of the room. Then one day, it didn't appear. Instead of black, shadowy figure came out of the wall in front of him and hovered in space. This sent him flying up the stairs to the receptionist. "What's with you? You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. As he caught his breath, he replied, "No, don't mind me. I was just wondering how old this house is." "Oh, it dates back to the early 1900s, she answered. "Has anything strange ever happened around here?" He pressed on. "Why? Did you see or hear anything strange in the basement?" she inquired. "Maybe," he nervously replied. She went on to tell how, according to historical records in town, back when the house was new, a couple owned the home. Somehow or another, the man ended up either falling or being pushed down the stairs, resulting in his death. It's been reputed as being haunted ever since. We constantly have doors mysteriously opening and closing, things being moved, and our office's machines turn on and off on their own. And as far as the basement is concerned, no one likes it down there. We've had so much trouble keeping temps. I hope we're not going to lose you too," she told him. "No," he replied. "I don't believe in that stuff." He then went back downstairs, still a little bit unnerved by the whole experience. He called me to keep his mind off of his new friend. I said, "Way cool, a shadowy apparition. You've got yourself a ghost." He was less than thrilled. This thing kept coming back and was making him very nervous. I told him, as long as you plan to stay with the job, you might as well get used to it and remember ghosts used to be people. Talk to him. He might not be able to talk back, but I'm sure he'll appreciate the company. Soon Bryant stopped complaining about it. I wasn't sure if the ghost was gone or if he had grown accustomed to him. By chance, I landed a temp position across the street. I walked over to meet him and they directed me downstairs. The office was extremely hot that day, but you could feel the temperature drop as soon as you hit the stairs. When I got to the bottom, Brian took one look at me and blew his top. "What are you doing down here?" "I'm here to go to lunch with you." But I admit, I was curious about my impressions of the basement, which indeed, I could feel a strong presence. With that, Bryant chided me saying, "You're just trying to exploit him. Maybe those two are getting too friendly." A few days later, he called me excitedly, "Mom, I just walked to the back of the building to get some boxes. I turned around and saw someone come down the stairs, then begin walking towards me. It was an older man. I didn't recognize him. He was dressed sort of strange. He then stopped, turned, and disappeared into the wall." When I heard this, I admit I was outright jealous. Wow, a full-body apparition. Now that's rare. Your ghost must really like you. When he told his father about it, it made a believer even out of him. So it looks like my mother's and my genes for sensitivity for the paranormal have been passed down to yet another generation. Atheist and believer in ghosts. I just don't get it. Hey, it's Phantom here. And you're probably wondering, if you're new, why the hell does he do outros like this? And I'll have to explain it to you guys. You see, the regular subscribers who are here regularly always know what to expect. Towards the end, they realize that it's nonsensical babble that drags on and on and on until eternity. So if you guys are okay with that type of behavior, then proceed, watch my videos, share them, like, comment, and subscribe. Because you're going to get the worst of the worst in terms of nonsensical babble at the end of the outros. And maybe you'll enjoy a ghost story or two, but then you'll leave saying, "What? What the hell is this?" But then you'll hug me because you realize that a virtual hug is better than all the hugs in the other universe of the world. Yeah, you see what I mean? Didn't even make any sense. And you thought I was gonna edit that out? Ha, no. In this world, in Phantom's world, we don't edit shit out. Not unless we actually edit it, which happens 90% of the time. See? I gotcha. I'm telling you, I don't make sense. I'll probably never make sense. But you know what? That's what makes me me. And you know what? I don't give a shit, because if I did, I'd be insecure. No, but seriously, guys, thank you so much for 3K subscribers. I just recently hit that milestone, and I'm so thankful for everybody who's tuned in and made this what this was. I mean, it's still going, and I still have a lot of improvement to make in the future, but I mean, looking back at how my channel has evolved over the years, and I mean, it hasn't been that long. I mean, since October of 2015, that's when I released my first video, and yeah, according to that, you know, I've evolved quite a bit since that time, and I feel like I've made some real strides here. But this Phantom isn't done, and he's going to continue this for as long as he can, and that means forever. Or until at least I'm on my deathbed, and even then, I'll record videos and say, "Hi guys," maybe make a vlog and be like, "Yeah, I'm dying, but you know, whatever, it doesn't matter, you know, because I'm still gonna record. Wheezing, coughing, sneezing, all the bit." Anyway, guys, yeah, that's a little bit dark. I love you guys. And good night. Anything else you want to say, dogs? Love you.